Answers to those and other questions as we get up.
Yes!
No one brings the heat like Jessica Mendoza. We're all over the baseball from yesterday. The football squad is ready to go. Fortinball's got you covered from every possible gambling direction. Let's do this on a Friday. We start last night in Cincinnati. The game of the night.
Still first in the division. Got a couple, home games coming up. Back to back, another Sunday night opportunity against my former team. So I'm not going to ride the roller coaster, and I know Mike isn't. And hopefully you guys follow suit.
Aaron, I love you, but unfortunately, we're not going to do that.
No.
We are definitely not following that suit. Bart, I start with you. No one loves to hate on the Steelers more than you do. At 4-2, what do we say about a Steeler, particularly a defense last night that couldn't get it done at all?
I mean, we knew that this was a soft 4-2. I mean, they should have lost to the Jets. You talk about being outscored in a lot of games as they won or outrushed, outgained. They were able to get 5 turnovers against the Patriots. This just brings them back to the pack. And I think this is why we talked about the Baltimore Ravens still being a live dog when they get back and get help.
Be protected. You play man coverage all night long, and the proof was in the pudding. Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
In the first half, Jalen Ramsey had 2 penalties. Joey Porter Jr. had 2 penalties. So why are you still playing man coverage like that at that depth in the second half? The proof was in the pudding.
Absolutely. So it's a bad night all the way around for the Steelers. Bengals take advantage. What's the story to you, Peter?
I think you're concerned if you're a Steelers fan because this was no surprise. This is a team, the Bengals, that always light the Steelers up in that building. Joe Burrow throws for more yards than even Flacco did. And then in the offseason, they brought in Jalen Ramsey. They brought in Juan Thornhill. They brought in Darius Slay. They brought in Brandon Eccles. And then they re-upped with Deshaun Elliott. And also they drafted Joey Porter Jr. 2 years ago. Like, this was no surprise. This is their weakness. And they really addressed it this offseason. And if you're going to address it and make it a point of emphasis in the offseason and still get lit up through the sky, well, then what hope do we have? The truth of the matter is, Jamar Chase was targeted 23 times. 23 times he was targeted. If that is not dunking on and insulting that defensive backfield and saying, we know what your weakness is and we're going to go at it and we're going to succeed, I don't know what is.
I think it's insulting that pass rush because you go man to man because you believe in that pass rush. Now it's tough as somebody who's played on some great defense that had great corners. Like, you paid $179 million to this defense. This is the most expensive defense in the league. You're going to go down doing what you do. Because I can remember when we had Revis, when we had Chris McAllister, we didn't practice zone coverage. So it's great to say go to zone coverage, play cover 2, but a lot of man corners don't know how to play zone coverage. And I think that's what the mistake was.
So what you're saying is these guys are supposed to be getting after the quarterback.
$179 million, the most expensive defense in the league. You have to do your job.
Joe Fortenbaugh, let me turn to you because our gambling expert extraordinaire. What comes out of last night's result as far as you're concerned?
So now you get the answer as to why the Baltimore Ravens were favored to win the division despite the 1-3 start, despite the 1-4 start. There was no team that was going to run away with it. Pittsburgh might be 4-2. They've been outgained from a yardage standpoint in 5 of 6 games, which includes the Jets game. So how do you bet it? You buy low on Baltimore. To win the division, this is the best price you've been able to get all season, plus 130. Regular season win total, over 8.5 wins. The division's soft, as we've already laid out, but the upcoming schedule for Baltimore, they're going to get healthy off their bye. They get the Steelers twice in the final 5 weeks of the season, and according to ESPN's FPI, 10th easiest schedule the rest of the way out. That team is primed to go on a run where the Steelers team is going to suffer a little bit of regression throughout the rest of the way. You can't win as many one-score games as they've been winning over the last 5+ years.
It's worth pointing it out. Scoring differential, yardage differential, particularly early in the season, sometimes a better indicator than a team's record is of who is really legit. The Steelers have been hovering in that fugazi area, if you will, for quite some time, and last night they certainly looked it. We have this game covered.
NFL Week 5 latest buzz, questions, news, and fantasy tips. We're a month into the NFL season, and insiders Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano have been making calls to sources around the league for the latest news and buzz on key situations heading into October. Playpoint. One of the biggest storylines of the week is what's going on with the Ravens and their 1-3 start. Jeremy and Dan have intel on the sentiments in Baltimore and how much panic the Ravens are feeling. They are also diving in on the Titans' 0-4 start and long-term ramifications of it, along with what they're hearing on the quarterback front as the November 4th NFL trade deadline approaches. That's not all, as Jeremy and Dan will also be examining rookies who have earned themselves more playing time. It's all here, as our reporters answer big questions and empty their notebooks heading into Week 5. Jump to potential Titans changes. Ravens panic meter. Rookies making a move. Will a QB be traded? More notes on Week 5. What are you hearing on the Titans' 0-4 start and potential changes they could make now or in the offseason? Fowler, there is moderate concern among the coaching staff that the front office and ownership might not be as patient as they originally believed, which could lead to change sooner rather than later. The proverbial vibes simply are not good right now. The front office entered the season with optimism about head coach Brian Callahan, who was a hot name on the coaching circuit in 2024. And though it wouldn't set a win-loss goal in regard to his tenure, Titans brass wanted to see a team that's improving. That's hardly the case in Tennessee, where -69-point differential through 4 games is by far the worst in the league. Next closest is New Orleans at -55. The overall lack of flow from week to week is only intensifying the discomfort. Callahan relinquishing play-calling duties to assistant Bo Hardegree a week ago could buy the staff a little time, but firing him a week after such a change would be counterproductive. The Titans' bye is Week 10, which feels important. But the expectation among some around the league I've talked to is that the temperature is increasing, especially with owner Amy Adams Strunk's willingness to make drastic changes in recent years. Editor's picks. There is a personal side of it all. How NFL QBs and refs approach their in-game chats. Josh Weinfuss, can the Ravens right their 1-3 ship? Barnwell breaks down their 2 biggest issues that need fixing. Bill Barnwell NFL Week 5 Power Rankings, 1-32 team poll, plus the biggest offensive issue for every roster. NFL Nation. Graziano, it's one thing to start 0-4 with a rookie quarterback, but it's another to be as non-competitive as the Titans have been. They had a second-half lead against the Broncos in Week 1, but things seem to have gotten progressively worse each week since. Sunday's loss to Houston was a complete no-show, and to get shut out the week after making an offensive play-caller change doesn't say much about their chances to fix this thing on the fly. Callahan was Tennessee's top choice as head coach following the 2023 season, and the franchise entered this season with the belief that he was the guy to shepherd Ward's transition into the league. But there have been red flags, including some game management situations and some post-game news conferences in which Callahan seemed unaware of some of the rules governing replay challenges, etc. If the Titans can win a couple of games, I'm sure that will buy him time, but that's a big if right now, and Callahan hasn't helped himself with some of his gaffes. I will say, from talking to people who follow these situations in the league, that there's belief that this will be a desirable job if and when it comes open. Young, promising QB, new stadium on the horizon, etc. You agree? Fowler, agreed. This can be a good job, Dan. Cam Ward has serious potential but needs an infusion of pass-catching talent around him. A few drafts can fix that. The offensive line hasn't come together despite significant investments. But offensive tackle J.C. Latham, currently injured, and guard Peter Skoronski are players to build on. The defense has held up at times. President of Football Operations Chad Brinker and General Manager Mike Borgonzi come from well-established, methodical personnel trees, the Packers and Chiefs, respectively. That should lead to build through the draft patience, which I once thought would help Callahan's case, but now I'm not so sure. As you mentioned, game management issues in multiple games this season have not helped his cause. That's such a priority for teams now. Graziano, yeah, that's another thing to watch, because Borgonzi and Brinker weren't really in their current roles when the organization hired Callahan. Maybe Brinker was, but he didn't have as much clearly delineated power at the time. It's never a comfortable feeling working for people who didn't hire you. And your point about the offensive line is a critical one, because the offensive line coach is Callahan's father, Bill Callahan, who's considered one of the best to ever do that job. I believe Bill wouldn't stick around if Brian got fired, so you're talking about major change in critical areas. I might look foolish in a couple of weeks, or days, who knows. But if I'm making a prediction, I lean toward the Titans giving Callahan the rest of the year before making a decision. Rate the level of panic in the Ravens building on a scale of 1-10. Graziano, I say 5, but it's important to note that that's a really high number in Baltimore, where there's typically not much panic at all. This defense has had no answers for anyone but the Browns, and with Nnamdi Madubuike out for the season and a ton of other injuries, Nate Wiggins, Roquan Smith, Darius Washington, the list goes on that side of the ball, where are the answers going to come from? Add Lamar Jackson's hamstring injury, and now you have a potential for disaster. If Jackson misses significant time, this season could go downhill quickly. Cooper Rush is the backup, and obviously the offense will look a lot different when he starts than it does when Jackson starts. The running game hasn't done anything since the season opener against Buffalo. There are a lot of problems for a team that was a popular preseason Super Bowl pick. I'm guessing the panic meter about the Ravens outside the building among fans and those of us who analyze objectively is closer to 10 right now. But the Ravens count on the strength and steadiness of coach John Harbaugh, general manager Eric DeCosta, and their internal leadership structure to solve problems and get them through tough times. You can bet they're scouring for answers, internally and externally. Breaking news from Adam Schefter. Download the ESPN app and enable Adam Schefter's news alerts to receive push notifications for the latest updates first. Opt in by tapping the alerts bell in the top right corner. For more information, click here.